Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Karma Sammy, and we're going to be discussing her amazing book, Karma, My Journey. That's available for purchase through Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, pretty much wherever books are sold. You're going to want to head on over there and pick it up. And I will say, Karma was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best publishers in the business, Author Reputation Press. So if you or anyone you know have a book that they'd like moved, people, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give. Contact ARP and have their wonderful team move it for you. They're one of the best in the business to do it, and you can find out more information on them through authorreputationpress.com. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Karma here on the line. I know by the time we're done discussing her book today, and let me just be the first to say, we're going to scratch the surface, but that's it. Okay, by the time we're done, you're going to run to her Amazon and Barnes & Noble pages and pick up your book because you're going to recognize how valuable it truly is. And at the end of the day, Karma's the expert. It's her life. She's lived it, and she's going to be able to articulate it much better than I ever could. So let's bring her here with us, okay? Karma, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I am doing fine. I am doing wonderfully well. Thank you.
Of course. Well, listen, it is a true pleasure and such a delight to have you as a guest here. And we know that we have a lot of information to cover from your life, from your background, the inspiration that we're going to be able to gather from it, Karma. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking and I'm just going to let you take over. Karma, My Journey. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Karma, My Journey is my life from childhood to teenage to adult, to being a young adult. When I was born a little girl, and I will not give away everything because I want people to know who I am. Mm-hmm. When I was born, I was not supposed to be alive. My parents had to do different mystical stuff for me to live. I did not have a name. I was called daughter until I was a year old. My grandfather did some white witchcraft, and I'm alive. Then when I was 14 years of age, a drastic thing happened. I was raised in Hinduism. My parents were devout Hindu. Hindu is an Eastern religion. And being born and raised in the island of Trinidad, that's the main religion back. I was raised in that religion. I became possessed with evil spirits. I, as a 14-year-old girl, was possessed with evil spirits at a young age. My parents, when that happened, the first thing my dad did was take me to the doctor. They got to the doctor's office, and I was having strange behavior, and the doctor said to my parents that I was mental, and he would sign a certificate to have me confined to a mental institution. My dad was very uneducated, but very smart. He never read nor write. He said to the doctor, no, he's not going to do that. He's taking me someplace else. So him and my mom brought me home, called the people in the neighborhood. Everybody saw me. And, of course, people in the neighborhood knew that what had happened to me was not a medical thing. It was spiritual because of my behavior, the screaming and constant hideous screaming after screaming. And my father said he did not know what to do, so he was advised by the neighbors and his relatives to take me to the Hindu priest. They got me to the Hindu priest. All of this happened in one day. got me to the Hindu priest. The Hindu priest took one look at me and he said to them, she's not going to live. These spirits are going to kill her. They came for her life. And my father said, well, is there something you can do? Well, of course, he's a Hindu priest. So he did his chants and he did his ceremony and tell them to come back to make a sacrifice. So they got all the stuff that he had told them to come to bring the sacrifice. He did the sacrifice the next day, but that did not change anything. The next day, my fingernails and toenails grew out. My hair, I had very long, black, curly hair. My hair could not be braided. It got stiff as wire. So my voice was changed to a hideous voice. My eyes were turned upside down. I was blind. And so my parents realized I grew from a 14-year-old beautiful little girl into a human beast. And there the drama began. My parents decided they will do anything they can. So they took me to Hindu priest. He couldn't get those demon spirits out of me. They took me to priestess. She couldn't do it. Instead, I got worse. I wasn't eating or drinking food. My parents had to shower me and put my clothes on and everything. I physically did not know what was going on with me. As a person, I was dead. And these spirits had control over me. Eventually, they took me to different places, and you have to read the book to get the deep source. Different places, high priest, the Catholic priest, Buddhist, I tell you, and voodoo after voodoo priest and priestesses. But instead, I got worse. After 2 months, my father decided, I'm not getting any better. They had to hide all the knives because I was always looking for a knife to kill. It meant that I would either kill myself or kill them. So they hide all the knives. I never knew my name was Karma. I did not know who I was. These evil spirits controlled me. And my parents said my fingers turned backward and my feet turned backward. And when they lay me on the floor in the house, on the floor, my body wriggled like a snake. So they knew that it was a demon possession that would kill me. And the Hindu priest came to the house and did a lot of rituals. After rituals, did a lot of chants, but nothing. When I say chant, they would chant a prayer to one of the Hindu gods. They would keep chanting. My parents grew heartbroken. They grew into poverty because every place they took me required money and required the sacrifice were either a pig or 2 male chicken. And on top of that, they had to carry the candles and all the different foods that were required to make the sacrifice to whichever spirit or God could take these spirits out of me. But none of them helped. Then my father was a fisherman. He sold fish in the village. And one of the villagers had missed him for 2 months and asked him why he wasn't working. And he told that villager about me. And that villager, that lady, mentioned to my dad, do you believe in God? And he said, he don't believe in God. They said, but you have to believe in God. I know where she can get better. And my father said, I will do anything for my child. And so my dad agreed with this lady to take me to a church. It was a Pentecostal church, I might say. I got to the Pentecostal church, and this is 2 months after being possessed. My parents couldn't sleep. I have 7 siblings. They were in fear. We had evil activities in the house. where the chairs would move, the windows would flung open in the middle of the night, the doors would flung open. My siblings were terrified of me. The only person could come near me was my mom. And sometimes she was afraid of me because the spirit in me used me to grab her neck, always want to kill. But they decided to take me to the church. And when I got to the church, the spirit in me kicked the church benches, lift up people, throw them aside. It was drama. It was like a domino effect, service after service. The pastor tried to pray for me, and the spirit in me grabbed a hold of his tie and was choking him. Eventually, they kept praying, and they kept praying until weeks after the pastor asked the church people to fast and pray for my healing. And I'm not giving everything away. I'm cutting back part. The healing for my soul that I would live. I was living on bread and water because the only thing my parents could have feed me was bread and water. But I was as strong as a lion. Those evil spirits in me was strong, and I weighed 90 pounds. And it took 10 muscular men to hold me down. It took 10 men to carry me out of the car into the church and lay me on the flooring in the church. But after months of fasting and praying in the church, a miracle took place. A big miracle took place. One night the pastor was preaching and the choir was singing, and for some unknown reason my body just got up and elevated off the bench. And the pastor came down and he spoke to the spirit that was controlling me, and I fell to the ground with a loud, hideous scream. During that time, I never stopped screaming. It was a hideous, frightful scream. At that moment, I got silent. And I was silent for about 2 hours. And when I awoke, the pastor asked me my name, and I said Karma. And he asked me my name over and over about 6 times, and I said Karma. The next thing, he picked me up, sat me on the bench, and my eyes opened. My eyes just opened. And for the first time in months, I saw my parents, I saw people, I saw my sibling. I didn't understand why we were in this church. I did not know where we were. It was confusion for me. Everything was confusion. And I looked at my mom, and I remember the words, "What are we doing here?" And she said to me, "You were dead, and you come back alive." I didn't understand. I did not know what was happening.
My goodness. People, listen, could we have selected a more perfect embodiment of a person of distinction? Wow. Listen, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you have to pick up your copies. Karma, My Journey is the title you have to pick up, and Karma Sammy is the author you have to thank for bringing it to your table. Switching gears here, Karma, the story is incredible. Talk to us about inspiration behind it. Why did you feel compelled to put the book out for the public to partake in as well?
When I lived in the island of Trinidad, which is my home island, I would share the story. And because people were familiar with evil spirits in the island, the story was accepted. When I migrated to the United States of America and I shared the story, it was not accepted. A lot of people did not believe what I said could have happened. And I felt disheartened and discouraged that people did not believe my story. But I have a couple friends, when I shared with them, they believed and they said, "You should write your story. You should get your story." So I was inspired, 1, by my husband, 2, by my children, and 3, by my friends. I was inspired by my friends. I said, "Oh, that's a good idea." So I decided to write the story. It took me 3 years to write the story because I had to fly back to Trinidad in the year 2005 to get my history from my siblings. I'm the only one living in the U.S. So I had to fly back to Trinidad, talk to my my family. I brought my mother to America. She filled me in with a lot of it. She knew everything. So my mom was the one who told me all that I put in the book because remember I had no memory. So I went back, I got all the information and I put it in my book. I said, okay, I told everybody I am going to write my story to encourage people, to let people know no matter what you are facing in this life, there is hope. And I believe in hope. Had not my parents had any hope, I would not be here telling this story. So I am here as a living, breathing testimony of hope, of faith, and of self-determination because they were determined. My daddy had already planned, and this is in the book, to have my funeral. But thanks be to the Lord God Almighty, it didn't happen. So I would like to encourage people, as you read my story and you go through the story step by step, see my story, but see your story as well, and how we can face life challenges and how we can lift our head above despair and how we can call on that higher power, which is God Almighty, to help us through our struggles. That's how I made it.
I absolutely love that. Final question here for you, Karma. Let's listen. We know about this fantastic book. We know about your past. I'm looking now towards the future. What's upcoming for you? Please tell me there's another book on the horizon.
Yes, there is another book on the horizon. As a matter of fact, I'm writing 2 books. There's a continuation to Karma, My Journey, which contains my life in America. I'm almost finished with that. And the thing is, I leave that to write about my husband. My husband got COVID-19 and he died in the hospital and came back in front of my eyes.
Wow.
Did I shock you? My husband got COVID on January 6, 2021, and he was on the ventilator for 11 days. When he got off the ventilator, I insisted that the doctors let me see him. And the day I get to see him, he relapsed. And the next day, he was given 24 hours to live. And the doctors told me I needed to turn the breathing tube off. And I said no. My husband's brain flatlined, kidney, liver function stopped. He had internal bleeding. He had no vital signs, just a mere heartbeat. And I said to the doctors, no, I have hope. And there were 20 doctors, and they said to me, you didn't hear what we said. And I said, I heard you. I have hope my husband is going to survive this. I will make a decision 5:30 in the morning. And let me tell you, I pulled a little chair to give me to sleep up in the bed. I went up on that hospital bed, and I called him back with all the tubes he had. And I began to call him by his name, Kenneth, Sammy, come back to me. I screamed at him and demanded he came back to me. And I said, God, you're going to give him back to me. You give him back to me. And I cried out to God, and the doctors came in at 10 o'clock, and they said, we're going to turn the breathing tube off. He's not receiving no treatment. I said, no, you leave it there. I will make the decision 5:30 in the morning. And they came back at 2 o'clock, and the doctors were amazed. 5 doctors came, and this time they were ready to pull the tube. And my husband's brain came back to life. He came back to life. And by 5:30 in the morning, I did not have to make a decision. He was alive. He was breathing. And let me tell you, his kidney worked and his liver came back. And they don't understand until now how the bleeding stopped. And I have all the medical proof of that. So that's my next book. I was encouraged by author repetition to put the story in books. So I'm writing that one. My book, Karma, is all about me. It talks a little bit about my marriage, the loss of a baby, the death of my son. Like I said, it's all my life. And I'm still living the life karma because the experiences that I experienced From a baby, I died, I came back to life. A teenager, I died, I came back to life. God has been good to me. I married a good man, and I'm still married to him. And together we're growing old, but we're growing old in the Lord. We're growing old in grace. We're growing old with our grandchildren in grace. And I would encourage people, when you read the book, don't just read it as a story, but read it as a personal experience. See yourself in your own situation. See yourself where you at and where you hope to go.
People, I'm at the edge of my seat, okay? And I have been this entire interview. You know what you have to do, okay? It truly is the gift that keeps on giving. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Karma, My Journey is the title you have to pick up, and Karma Sammy is the fantastic author that brought it to you. Check back in frequently. As she mentioned, she has another book on the horizon. People, I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this opportunity. Get on board, learn from her story, implement it into your day-to-day lives in any way, shape, or form, because there is so much wisdom that'll be able to be taken from it. So you know where to go. You can thank me later. Karma, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you, and you have a wonderful rest of your day. I look forward to talking to you maybe in the future again.